Hello, my name is Joe Salomon, and welcome to my presentation. I'm going to talk about my current practice, the influences on my work, and my research project. My current practice is mainly landscape and urban based in London and the south of England. Though travel photography is also an important part of my practice, I'm developing more in London. The city provides endless opportunities to engage in urban photography. With my camera, I'm able to experience the city, its people, its architecture, its colours, and its light. Though well known through film and TV, and having been photographed by countless others, I feel ownership not of the city, but of my view of it. Only I see it with my eyes, and with my lens I can show this to others. My images range from long exposure controlled shots to snapshots of people, though my people shots are rarer. In terms of how I make photographs, I'm still experimenting to find what works best for my various projects. I shoot a lot with my DSLR. I shoot in RAW and then process in Lightroom and Photoshop. This allows me to bring out certain aspects of the image so that I produce a photograph that I feel is representative of what I saw or what I want to show. I'm currently working a lot with ND filters to achieve long exposure shots. For example, here is Kew Railway Bridge, shot at 30 seconds to blur the water and allow the reflection to stand out. I'm also working with telephoto lenses to flatten objects or buildings in the distance, which allows me to take shots that include a multitude of elements all crowded together, as in this shot from a recent series that examined the constant building work around famous London sites. Alongside my DSLR work, I'm learning more about analog photography. I develop black and white 35mm film in my darkroom, and I'm experimenting with different developing techniques to see what can be achieved. I'm now ready in my current practice to explore other formats, such as medium format cameras, to experience their detail and depth. An important part of my current practice is decision making in terms of where and when to shoot. Sometimes I'll take a dérive approach with a random walk, and sometimes I plan in detail, especially with some of my ongoing projects with specific elements to photograph, such as bridges, like Chiswick Bridge. When I have something specific I want to shoot, I use Google Street View and an app to determine a good place to shoot from, and where and when the sun will rise and set. Once I know what I want to photograph, I think about why and what I want to achieve with the shots. My current series of Bridges on the Thames aims to show the bridge's different personalities through the images. So, for example, with Chiswick Bridge, I wanted to emphasise how it's very sleek and somewhat understated. The stone used is so beautiful, the bridge doesn't require other fancy adornments. This meant I needed early morning sun on the bridge to show the stone in the best light, and needed a good reflection to highlight the sleek curves. In terms of the actual shoot, I try not to get too tied down to one angle, so I usually make a number of images from different angles. For the Chiswick Bridge shots, I tried the backlit side of the bridge. I tried from the footpath, and I tried a short exposure, before deciding on a long exposure shot from right alongside the water. The preparation I do allows me to be in the right place at the right time, but I am concerned about becoming too rigid about my shoots, which is why I experiment with angles and lenses. I'm also concerned that I often prefer to make images of urban landscapes with fewer people in them. This shot of the bridge, for example, has no one in it save one lone van in the distance. Without people, cars, or trains crossing the bridge, why does it exist? By removing the people, aren't I removing a key factor of urban life? Does it make my images appear sterile? Or am I exploring my own experience of the city? When I photograph or go for walks, I often feel in my own bubble, like I can block out the people and the noise and the traffic, and experience the buildings and streets on my own. But what kind of city is that, without people adding life? When I look critically at my current practice, an important consideration in terms of the motivations and objectives of my work is the influences upon it. One of these is cinema. Cinematic views and scenery have influenced me since I was a child, and I find my current practice is edging more towards a cinematic aesthetic. It's not there yet, but I want to explore this further. I get inspiration for shoots and angles from films, and I often improve my own photography by comparing my shots with what I thought worked well in a film. I don't aim to copy the shots, but to understand why they work. For example, the 90s classic Thelma and Louise has helped me. Here's a shot from the film that I found visually arresting. And here is my own shot that has certain similarities. What works in the film shot and in mine? The background seems painted on, adding a slightly surreal quality. The road is used to cut the frame. Dry scrubland indicates heat, adding atmosphere to the images. But what's different? The car. My shot doesn't have one, and so doesn't have a clear subject or point of focus. Let's look at another example, this time from Brokeback Mountain. This shot shows how the landscape can be used to represent the emotions of the characters. The still calmness of the lake, and the purity in its perfection, reflect how the men feel calm in the mountains, and their relationship is allowed to be free and pure up there. My similar shot also has the same calmness, and the clouds also add interest. However, mine is very symmetrical in its framing, with both sides of the reflection being given equal prominence. I could learn from Brokeback and give the lake reflection more importance as the focus. Films also help me to consider London from different perspectives. Film and television have inspired an interest in striking architecture, particularly towers like these estate blocks in the films Beautiful Thing, Attack the Block, Fish Tank, and an episode of TV show Prime Suspect. Brutalist blocks like these say so much about loneliness and overcrowding and economic issues, and they dominate local skylines. My own photographic practice has started to have more and more of these blocks in it, including shots in my local neighbourhood, detailed studies of the shapes of the structures, and this recent shot from Week 7's Peer Commission. The brief was to make an image with at least 3 colours and some movement in it. These towers are just one example of how London in film influences my practice. I am also influenced by Impressionist painters, particularly those who painted London around the turn of the last century. They came to London to escape the Franco-Prussian War, and they flourished in the fog of the city. Their work is inspiring in many specific ways. For example, the buildings are blurred, giving them a ghost-like appearance. The colours suggest specific atmosphere or emotions, as in this purple-hued sunset from Monet. Reflections in the river are often broken up and blurry, which gives a sense of movement. The images have few people in them, giving the sensations of a mysterious city. As well as Impressionism, I am of course also influenced by other photographers. Just a few examples include Robert Frank, for his eerie atmospheric shots of Paris, Bert Hardy's wartime London images, Stephen Shaw's use of colour, and Gregory Crewdson's cinematic shots. If I take my current practice and influences and put them together, I find I am drawn towards a specific area for my research project, London, and in particular cinematic London. This doesn't necessarily mean only film locations, but the aesthetic of cinema applied to London. The city has been filmed and photographed so often, why not use that itself for inspiration? The cinematic vistas will allow me to combine my urban photography with my landscape techniques. While some of the images can be simply inspired by a film, others can use real film locations. I may need to work with models in order to achieve some of my shots, which will push me well, as I've found from recent bits of coursework I'm not particularly keen on collaboration. Though I know I want London to be my subject, I am yet to decide on a theme for the work. Potential themes include tourism or migration, gentrification, ownership of a city, change, and isolation and loneliness. I am leaning more towards isolation and loneliness, as these themes seem to be coming out in my work already through my empty bridges or lone people, but I will research further before deciding. Thank you.